So I trained as a lawyer. I'm still practicing. I'm a partner in a law firm called Shakespeare Martineau. I've held a number of different management roles there, governance and operational. And I'm still practicing, so that means that I started a second career as a non-executive director, using the skills that I've learned over the years. And delighted to have been a director of Nottingham for 4 years as I commenced what I would call my second life.
I started my career selling shoes when I was a student, and that sparked my passion for people and also for great customer service. After university, I joined M&S as a graduate, and I moved on after a few years to Boots, where I've had the opportunity to work on many great people projects, work with many great people. And then I have been with the Nottingham for 8 years and I'm privileged to lead the people and development team.
I've had two main roles in my career. The first 20 years of my working career was as a lawyer, and the last 9 years of that were as a corporate finance partner in Allen & Overy LLP, which is one of the largest law firms in this country. I then made the mistake of having too many children too late in life, too quickly. I resigned from that role, and then I took up a plural career as a non-exec, ending up with 2.5 roles currently, and loving my time at the Nottingham.
So my career history is quite checkered to begin with, and so I started actually by going to a careers counsellor, and at the time there were not that many jobs about, and so I was offered one of 3 jobs: a panel beater, a pheasant farmer, or a trainee legal executive. And so I started off by thinking perhaps the training legal executive would be more me. So I went for the interview and thought, this is great. I absolutely love the idea of this. Because basically what you were doing was, it was for a criminal lawyer, and so you would go out and take statements from criminals. Just thought it would be so interesting. But unfortunately, they turned me down and took on a man instead. But at the time I thought, there's nothing else here, so I've got nothing to lose. So I went back and said to them, why don't you take me on as well, because I'm essentially free, because there was a government scheme on, and then you can get rid of me when you start paying me. And so after the 2, they did take me on. I think they liked the goal, and so after 2 years they got rid of the man, who is now a very successful law partner, by the way, and they kept me on. So I ended up going from being a training legal executive, interviewing prisoners in prisons, etc., or into bar work and all sorts of things, and then I ended up in financial services, and I've been in financial services now for about 25 years. Worked for a number of organisations, and the one thing I would say was really consistent is that I was in the minority as a woman in all of those circumstances, and I've met some brilliant people along my way, and I've met some real bullies as well. So learning how to make networks and relationships with brilliant people, both men and women, has been one of the ways that's really helped me in my career.
So this is going to sound a bit unusual, but I don't really think I've faced many challenges in terms of being a woman. I've had support, motivation, opportunities, but I think I'm probably an exception rather than the rule, because the stories that I hear are not the same. I think a key objective over the next 10 years is to have more people who can say the same that I do, that we've had the opportunities and not been challenged, but there's lots of work to do.
My key challenges have been demonstrating my worth and being able to be taken seriously in a business setting, to ensure that the people agenda is pivotal and centre to all the business decisions. I fundamentally believe that businesses are about people, and the best people decisions lead to the best business outcomes.
A huge number of challenges. I went to work first in 1984, before most of the people listening to this were probably born, in a very different environment. There were no female partners in the law firm. There were very few females altogether. And overt sexism was the order of the day. So it was a constant battle to get yourself taken seriously to begin with.
So I think the main challenge was, particularly when I was younger, I think there were 2 things. One is, women were in the minority, but also I didn't have a first degree, and actually I was up against a lot of people who did. And so I got to 30, and there was a man that was brought in from outside. I don't think it would have mattered whether he was a man or a woman, but at the time, but he was about 3 years younger than me, and he got brought in at the level above. And at that point, I took stock, talked to a few people I had a lot of respect for and said, how am I going to cut through this? And I was again lucky enough to get sponsored for a degree with a marketing diploma, and I did a finance diploma. And I think that gave me the confidence that never again could anybody really challenge me. And I think for women in business, a lot of it is about having the confidence. And I would argue I shouldn't have needed to go and get the degree to get that confidence, but in my case, it did work.
My best piece of advice would be yourself. There is space for everyone, and that's not just for women, that's for absolutely everybody. Be yourself. And don't be shy on ambition. I think there is an ability to have it all these days, especially with technology, agility, empowerment. So go for it.
So my biggest piece of advice is demonstrate that you're always learning and demonstrate real interest in the business that you operate in, wider than your specialism, to ensure that you truly understand what the business is trying to achieve and how you in your particular role can make a real contribution to that. That's where I've had my biggest success, and I think that's pivotal for anyone who's starting out in business as a woman.
I've seen various styles being adopted by women in business. Some styles are sort of overtly extrovert and quite aggressive. My preferred way of operating is always to quietly go about my business, doing everything as well as I can, and just plugging away really while maintaining a sense of humour. Without a sense of humour, you get nowhere.
I think just be confident and speak up. And I don't mean speak up all the time, but I think there's a great book by Sheryl Sandberg called Lean In. And what she talks about is the different behaviours, and make sure that you work with people who give you the opportunity to actually lean in and to have a voice. And I think if you have the confidence and have a voice, then you can do anything.